issues with a label is not necessarily the label, but sometimes it's the word that's put in front of the label. Now, before we get there, all of our inductees today, and possibly some of the family and friends and other DCCC community people who are here to support you, they may fit this label in particular, student. And student, in defining that, it doesn't have to necessarily mean that you're in class taking classes. That's why I say probably everyone can fit under that label of being a student, where you're learning something from someone, be it in a college setting, a high school setting, or just any environment where you're learning something. But it's not necessarily that label of student, like I said, that causes the problem. Sometimes it's the word that's put in front of it, and that word is an adjective. Definition of adjective: it modifies a noun or a pronoun, or describes the noun or the pronoun. Like I said, messy child, right? So sometimes what happens in our daily lives is we have these labels put in front of us, and the problem with the adjective is that it can dictate one's success or one's failure. It can cause us to be motivated, or even cause us sometimes to be lackadaisical and just succumb to the label. Perhaps when you were in grade school, middle school, high school, maybe even college, maybe even last semester or this semester, someone put a label on you. Maybe they said that you were a lazy student who was not going to be successful, and they didn't see how you were going to do well in life. But you didn't allow that label to dictate your success. Instead, you rose to the occasion and you said, you know what? I'm not lazy. Or at least I'm not going to be lazy anymore if you knew you were not doing what you're supposed to do. And in rising to the occasion and saying, I'm not going to be lazy, I'm not going to allow that label to dictate my success, not even just as a student, but as a person. And there's another label also. Model student. Model student. Now, on the surface, model student seems like a nice label to have. Oftentimes, as a student myself, I would be called the model student. Well, sometimes being the model student can cause problems too, because that's a lot of pressure to live up to when you're told you're the model student, which means that you don't want to let your professor down, your teacher down, your parents down, because you're the model, which means everyone's looking towards you. So to be able to say, you know what, I am going to live up and possibly even exceed the expectations of others, or not even that, but not allow that to dictate how hard I have to work, that you're satisfied with whatever it is that you're doing. That takes courage as well. Now, sometimes there are labels such as perhaps you have a learning disability as a student, and you say, well, I need some accommodations to make sure that I do well in school. Well, it's been my experience just in observing that I've occasionally had students who've come to me and told me, well, I have a learning disability, and I was told as long as I get a C, that's okay. Why should you have to settle for a C? If you get the accommodations that you need, you can do well, you can do exceptionally well. And I'm sure that we may have some people here today who say, well, yes, someone may have told me, be it learning disability or not, that, well, why aren't you just happy with a C? Or maybe there was a point in your life where you said to yourself, well, I'm just a C student. But you're more than that. You know, when you put that label on yourself, you're dictating your success or your failure. When you live up to what other people say, you can be living up to what they believe your success or failure will be. And some of you may even be familiar, if we have any education majors, or I'm sure maybe talked about in psychology as well, this idea of the self-fulfilling prophecy, where when you live up to what people tell you you are, they project their views onto you. Now, another label, and with this one, here's a side lesson. forgive me, I'm going to use a double negative here. This one somewhat is sad because I've had some people tell me that this was uttered to them and this label was thrusted upon them, not by anybody, but by their family, by their friends, by people who are supposed to love them and support them. You ain't nothing. You ain't going to be nothing, so I don't know why you're going to college. It takes a lot of courage to be able to say, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm not going to listen to that label. I am something. And everybody here, I hope that you leave feeling that this is an absolute accomplishment. And anyone who's ever put that label upon you, that they don't know how hard you work. Or maybe you need to show them how hard you work and that you are not that label, that you're more than that. I'm sure that there's some people here that may even have the label of single parent. And someone told you, you're going back to school? That's silly. You're not going to have enough time to do this, that, and the other. But you didn't allow that to dictate your success or failure either. You were able to rise to the occasion and you said, you know what? I can do this. Where there's a will, there's a way. Because perhaps in looking at that role of single parent, you said to yourself, that in itself, that label, I want to be a single parent who's able to do for my children. I want to be a single parent who's able to have my children look up to me and say, wow, Mom, Dad, I can't believe that we're going to the Phi Theta Kappa induction for you to become a member. That's an absolute accomplishment. And perhaps there's some people here today also where maybe no one ever told you that you were a bright student until that one day where someone put that label on you and you never heard it before. And it did something for you. Maybe before you didn't try as hard, and maybe before you were that person who said, just give me a C and I'm good. And when that label was put upon you by someone, in that instance you willingly accepted it. And you said, wow, someone actually thinks that I'm a bright student. Someone actually thinks that I'm a diligent student. Someone actually thinks that I'm smart. I can do this. And I definitely applaud you for that. Now, something else to keep in mind is that you have your family, you have your friends, you have your professors here, you have the DCCC community here to support you. And I think I can say with absolute certainty that there's one label that they all wear, and that label is proud. That they're proud to see how much you've accomplished and how far you've come. And I'd just like us all to give a round of applause right now for the inductees.